Hello, everybody. It's Scott Pinyard, head coach of This Naked Mind, and here I am. It's Sunday, so I'm popping on here to talk about some stuff I've been thinking about over the week, and what a week it's been. Before I get into it, let me tell you what I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about staying level headed in difficult times. Now, we don't talk about politics or anything like that specifically here. However, we do talk about how to take the best care of ourselves that we possibly can. And that's what I want to talk about. How do we deal with what's going on in the world in a way that actually helps us, that keeps us informed? So I'm going to get into that in just a second. Before I do, though, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever had a time in your drinking career where you've asked yourself the question, am I an alcoholic? Hey, Catherine, how's it going? Good to see you. Um, Chances are you have. A lot of us have. Many of us have. And it's a difficult question. And it's one of those questions that I think a lot of times can actually stop us from doing everything we can to help ourselves out. The term alcoholic for a lot of people carries a lot of connotations. And we know this. I mean, I know I went through it, and I think Annie's talked about how she's gone through it as well. So we put together a really helpful guide to help you sort out this question for yourself. You can find it at www.alcoholictruth.com. It's totally free. It's a guide we put together that combines sort of the latest research and information to help you answer that question for yourself. One last thing I'll say about this, and then I'll get into what I want to talk about. Very often, this idea of whether or not I'm an alcoholic can stop us from moving forward in our journey to change our relationship with alcohol. Don't let that happen. Download this guide and read it. I think you're going to feel a lot better about this question, and that is going to help you actually be able to move forward if you're feeling stuck. So again, it's at alcoholictruth.com. Go check it out there. It's 100% free. We just want you to have it so that you understand how the latest sort of psychological and medical research looks at this term, looks at this idea. And I think it'll be really helpful if you're struggling with that question. So again, it's alcoholictruth.com. All right, let's talk. First, I want to encourage you guys, please put your questions in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer a bunch of them when I get through what I wanted to talk about today. Hey, Sandra from Pittsburgh, go Steelers. Jeanette, how's it going? I'm glad you're here. So let me talk a little bit about I want to talk about this idea of it feeling like there's so much happening in the world. This is particularly true for folks in the United States. However, all over the world, there's a lot of stuff going on. COVID, obviously, is leading in the headlines. It's surging in a lot of places. And what I've found, I don't know about you, but what I've found in these difficult times is that sometimes it can feel really, really difficult to keep our to stay sane, essentially. Bridget, how's it going? And that can be a real challenge. And here's the thing: in this alcohol journey that we're all at different stages of, one of the things that helps us the most is mindset, right? Is how we feel on a daily basis. And so in times like this, it can feel like, all right, I'm gonna go drink, right? Something bad, difficult is happening. Something outside of my control is happening. Something is happening that I never thought would happen, maybe. And so the impulse in that situation, a lot of times, is to go ahead and reach for a drink. I'm a little dark. I'm going to turn some lights on here. But what we want to actually talk about and help you with today and sort of go into today are what are some ways, some things you can do to kind of help keep your thoughts in a good place during this time. Now, obviously, there's nothing we can do about the world and some of the events that are happening. Obviously, we all come from different vantage points and viewpoints. But there are very simple things, and these are really simple things that you can do that help you feel better, even with all of this difficulty that's happening around the world. So that's what I want to talk about today. I have three things in particular that I want to go into. And these are three things, by the way, that I use personally on a very regular basis. And I'm going to, I'll dig into each of them with you. But let me say hi to a few more people. Angela, hello. Susan, first time here. Welcome, Susan. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Jenny, 11 days alcohol free and feeling annoyed. Jenny, you should, first of all, be super happy you're at 11 days. That's awesome. That's a massive, massive achievement. So listen to what I have to say today about helping make our heads a better place to be. It might be something that can help you out. Okay, so the three things that we can do to manage our headspace in these difficult times. I'm going to talk about the first one, which is super obvious, but I see over and over and over and over that that people absolutely skip this one. This is one of the first things that goes out the window when things get difficult, when things get stressful. And here it is: take care of yourself, right? What I see a lot of people happening, and sometimes, if I'm honest with you, it happens with me too. We stop doing the things that we know will make us feel, and I mean physically feel better, when we get stressed out. So, this is simple stuff like getting some movement in. And I don't mean going to the gym and trying to increase your, bench PR. I mean like going for a walk, maybe doing some gentle yoga, just moving around a little bit to help to kind of help shake off some of the energy that we have. I mean drinking water, right? I mean making sure you're getting enough sleep. So we go into this in depth in the path course, but what I can say here is that, doing this work right now, doing this work to just help yourself feel physically better will make a massive difference to your mindset, which is huge when things feel kind of difficult, right? When things feel hard. So that's number one. Make sure you're doing the things that help you feel good. Number two is watch for what goes into your brain. This is something, and again, I am also guilty of this. I did, especially this week, I did plenty of it, more than I should have. And what I mean when I say that is watch what your consumption of news is, right? I remember when COVID first broke out, how many people would tell me, oh, I'm sitting at home because we couldn't go anywhere. I'm sitting at home and I can't do anything but watch the news. I feel like I just watch the news all day. And here's the thing. We know this to be true, right? The news, tells you the dramatic stories. They tell you the frankly the darker stuff because that's the stuff that sells. So if that describes you, if you've been watching a lot of news recently, consider what are you learning that's new, and consider how is that making you feel. A lot of times we feel this idea of like, oh, I really want to know what's going on. I feel this way all the time, right? I want to be up to date. I want to know the latest thing that happens. I want to be totally plugged in and I want to totally understand what's up. Here's the thing. There's a lot of repetition on there. You will eventually be able to find out exactly what happened. But if being plugged in is making you feel worse, then it's not something that's serving you. And I know you're probably thinking, hey, well, some of the news this week was pretty intense. And yes, absolutely it was. But the fact of the matter is, if you're sitting there watching those videos over and over, it's just going to make you feel worse. I want to tell you a story. Before I do that, though, please, I want to encourage you guys to please answer, type in some questions. I'll be happy to answer some. Let me say hi to a few more people. Hey, Susan, how's it going? Cindy, feeling strong. We've got this. Exactly, Cindy. Thank you very much. Joseph, how's it going? Kendra, hey Kendra, how are you? Day one for you. Welcome, Kenda. Congratulations. That's so awesome. Angela, Monday morning here in Australia, feeling great. That's fantastic, Angela. I'm glad you're with us. Hey, Sandra, being plugged in makes me feel worse and it's repetitive. Yes. So, there's a story I remember very clearly, like a lot of people do, where I was when 9/11 happened. I was in college at the time. I remember, I won't tell you the whole story. The point is, eventually I turn on the television and I see that first video of a plane hitting a tower. And then I was watching live as the second plane hit. And then I just sat there like with my mouth open, watching CNN, just watching it. And it was just this loop, right? And it was just those videos over and over and over and over. And it was a real struggle, right? It really dragged me down. Now, obviously that was a massively sad day. There was a massive shock, I think, for a lot of us. And so I eventually turned off the TV, and I remember thinking at the time, like, did that really just help? Like, I know that I was feeling lost, I was feeling confused, but did what I just do actually help? And it didn't. And, it's not like I felt sunshine and rainbows better, but once I stopped watching those videos over and over, once I stopped taking on board all of this new information, a lot of it speculation, a lot of it facts, some of it being changed, different opinions, there wasn't a lot of value there. And it turned out what I needed to do was kind of understand what this meant for me, as someone who loves New York. I used to live there. And really kind of deal with it on my own way. And so the same thing is true with anything that's going on here. This is what happens, right? What we do, and what we put into our brains is going to make us feel a certain way. So if you find yourself just watching the news over and over, if you find yourself going, oh, I know this story, I heard, and I'm speaking from experience here, right? Like, oh, they just talked about this an hour ago. Maybe it's time to change the channel, right? Maybe it's time to turn it off. Same thing, by the way, goes for social media. And this is hard to say because I'm talking to you on social media right now, but here is the facts. Social media is built to keep your attention. Social media is built so that it constantly hooks you and gets you to continue to scroll and gets you to continue to engage. Now, when something major is happening, and it seems like that's everyone is talking about, guess what happens as you keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling? The same thing if you keep watching the news, right? It's just the same stories. It's not necessarily anything new. We start to feel almost like playing a slot machine. We start to feel like, oh wait, maybe we're going to find the next thing. Maybe we're going to find the next, the next bit of information that helps us process and make sense of this. That information will be available, but it is very, very, very rarely available right during an event or in the immediate aftermath. And so staying away from that can be really helpful for making our head a better place to be. And same thing is true with the conversations. There are so many conversations that go on. Again, that's one of the reasons we don't actually allow conversations of this type in this Naked Minds groups, because it is so easily leads to confrontation, and it distracts us from what we're all trying to do, which is trying to make ourselves feel better and trying to make ourselves grow. And so staying away from that, making sure that you are aware. I'm not saying it's bad to use it, of course. I mean, I use it, a lot of people use it, but being very mindful of how it's affecting you. If you're feeling that, it can be so much drama, and it can really, really change the way you feel. And that's not necessarily a good thing. So that is thing number 2. So just as a review, thing number 1 is take care of yourself, right? Don't forget to do the things we need to do to feel good. I know that it's very easy for those things to go out the window. Ask me how I know that. And make sure that you're doing those very, very simple things that will just help. Even if you don't think it helps a ton, I promise you it's going to make a huge difference, especially if you do it on a regular basis. Thing number 2 is watch out for what goes into your brain. I regularly go on news diets. I'm extremely careful about what information I take in because I know that it affects me emotionally. And that is no more true than in difficult times like now. So let me answer some more questions. People saying hello. Sandra says, so true. Plugged in makes me feel worse and it's repetitive. Exactly, right? And I think the big turning point for me on all of this was when I started asking myself, like, what am I actually getting out of this? Right? What am I getting out of this? And I didn't really have a good answer, So that's awesome. Thank you, Sandra. Hi, Kathy in Wisconsin. How's it going? Donna in New Lenox. Hey, Donna, how are you? Happy Sunday. Michelle says, hey, Scott, fun. I just caught you. Doing well. Alcohol free. Recommitted for 2021. Yes, Michelle, that is awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. Marsha asks, how do I feel about AA? That's a great question, Marsha, and I will get to that in just a minute. Let's see. Matt says, definitely true on not staying too plugged in. I think you can also adapt to that many things. For me, it was an engagement ending while also quitting drinking. Family, friends, and my ex were all like watching and listening to the news, and I had to unplug and stop the mind movie and the repetitious thoughts. I became aware that what was being put into my brain and to give myself a break from it. Exactly, Matt. Exactly. You know exactly what I mean. Michelle says, news is like soap operas. You can miss it for a week and pick right back up on the storyline. Once a week is enough for me. Yeah, I hear you on that. I absolutely do. So let me answer what Marsha asked about AA. So I think AA is fantastic in that it has helped so many people over, I believe it's 100 years or almost 100 years now. It has been, look, there's very few organizations in the world where no matter where you are, whether you're at home or traveling or on a business trip or out for a drive, there's very few organizations that you can just like pull up their website and find a meeting that you can go to in the next couple of hours. That is fantastic. Community and connection are such a huge part of this journey. So that's how I feel about AA. I know from in my personal journey, it wasn't necessarily for me. There were some things with the method that I just didn't connect with, but that doesn't mean that AA itself is bad. Look, nothing works for everybody. There is no such thing as like one way. And so I love AA. I think it's fantastic. My father, who just passed 15 years alcohol free, he has done it with AA. My best friend Colin has done it with AA. And like I said, that has helped millions and millions of people. So my best suggestion on any method, whether it be AA or Smart Recovery or This Naked Mind, is to check it out, right? How does it connect with you? How does it make you feel? Do you feel engaged with it? Do you feel inspired by it? That's what's important. From AA just was not that for me, which is what led me to eventually reading Annie's book. So I hope that helps. That's a great question, Marcia. Thank you for asking that. Let's see. Christina says, I agree and say these tips all the time when I teach yoga. Exactly, Christina. Exactly. Kim from New Zealand, how's it going? Joseph says, my plan is to surpass or lengthen 100 days alcohol free. I love that idea. I love that. That's awesome, man. Congratulations on that. Um, Let's see. Tamara, if you email us at hello at This Naked Mind with any questions about the program, they can absolutely help you out about that. So hello at thisnakedmind.com. Donna says, so I've been alcohol free for 9 months and doing fine in the pandemic. My concern is when I finally get back to socializing. Ideas. Donna, I love that question. And it's funny. I always, I think about before I go live, what are the things I want to talk about? Like today, right? How to kind of manage your mindset during difficult times. And more than once, I have thought to myself, I can't wait to do the video about how to re-enter into social life after COVID, and I'm gonna have to wait a while to do that, right? It's gonna take some time. But yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And a lot of people have quit during the pandemic. And in a lot of ways, that is really difficult. I mean, there was so much, how do I want to say it? There's so much unknown and so many questions and so much difficulty going on in the world that was a really hard time to actually make that shift. And so the fact that you did is fantastic. So you deserve massive, massive kudos for that. That being said, you're right. Eventually, someday, things are going to shift back somewhat to the way they were, whatever that looks like. And things are going to open up back again. And we are going to be able to go out to restaurants and we are going to be able to go to concerts and vacations and all of this stuff that we all miss. So to answer your question specifically, a few things you can do when you get to that point. First and foremost, really, really pay attention to the stuff that you've learned over this last 9 months. At 9 months, you are beyond the point where there's any real physical dependency anymore. You have moved beyond that. That is now behind you. And so that means that this is going to be a mental game for you, which leads me to point number 2. Pay attention to your thoughts. One of the things we have seen over and over and over, as a matter of fact, it's what this Naked Mind methodology is based on, is that our thoughts create our emotions and our emotions create our behavior. So watch what you're thinking, right? Find yourself thinking something like, oh man, look at him. He's having that glass of wine. I really wish I could have that, right? That's a great time to catch yourself and be like, well, all right, do I? And there's a lot of tactics you can use at that moment. You can play the tape all the way to the end, right? You've heard that discussion before. You can do things like, well, really, why? What do I want? Right? What do I want right now? Oh, it turns out I just want to be relaxed. But pay attention to your thinking and really allow yourself to think the thoughts you're going to think when you're in those situations. And it'll make a huge difference for you as you sort of re-engage with society. That sounds really dramatic, but you know what I mean. The third one I want to give you is a tactic called a buddy, a plan, and an excuse. If you go anywhere, let's say it's post-COVID, you are finally invited to a party and it's good. Everyone's going to be vaccinated. You're like, can't wait to get there, but you're a little bit scared because there's a lot of drinking going on. You know that's going to happen. So one of the things that I like to recommend is this tactic: a buddy, a plan, and an excuse. And it's really simple. First, go into the situation with a buddy, someone who knows, and tell them ahead of time, like, hey, I'm a little bit nervous about this situation because I haven't been to a party where I haven't been drinking before. If I need some support, will you help me? And they could do anything, right? It could just mean that they give you a supportive nod from across the room. It could mean that they give you a hug. It could mean a million different things. But be clear about, hey, I want some support. That's the buddy. Secondly, is a plan. One thing that happens very often when we're in the middle of cravings or urges, if that happens to pop up for you at this party, is that it gets very difficult to think straight. So have a plan for what you're going to do if an urge starts to get really strong. That could mean, if you're at home, just getting in the car and going home. Maybe it means getting in the car, getting ice cream. Maybe it means getting in the car and going for a drive, or going for a walk, or stepping outside and calling someone. Whatever it is, have a plan so that you don't have to think about it real time. So if you're at the party or you're at that event and things are starting to build and you're feeling that pressure and you're starting to question your decisions and all of this stuff, you've got a plan and you can just execute that plan without having to decide what to do in the moment. So you've got a buddy, you've got a plan, and the third one is an excuse. The reason I say the excuse thing is this is another place that really trips people up in social situations. You're at a party, your best friend's throwing the party, you're talking to people are like, it's so good to see you, da 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 da, and it's going on, and the pressure again is starting to build. And let's say your plan is to go home. Now, there's this thought that we all have of like, how do I extricate myself from this social situation? Like, what do I do to get away from all of this? And so again, that's another one of those points that you're having a really strong urge that your brain's just going to spin on, and it's going to be really tough to be able to kind of work through that. So just have that planned ahead of time. I don't feel well. I got to get up early. I hate this party. I don't know, whatever the excuse is. Again, have that ready to go so that you can just hit the gas on this and move forward. So there's a few things that can help you. We're going to be talking a lot about that this year on these lives and in our program. So stay tuned, Donna. But thank you for asking that awesome question. Hey, Eva from Germany. I'm glad you're with us. Hello, hello. Laura Lee from South Carolina. How's it going, Laura Lee? I'm glad you're here. Anita, 100 days alcohol-free tomorrow. Sober October. Worked this time. I'm doing great. Feeling strong. Stay the course, everyone. Anita, congratulations. That's so awesome. I love hearing that. Let's see. Michelle says, I've been following Simon for the month, wondering what's new with TNM. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Michelle, but... Oh, you've been following, I see what you mean. You've been following Simon. So what's new with TNM? So there's a lot of stuff going on with us where we launched a new program called The Path. And that's going, we actually have a new group that will be launching soon. So pay attention for that. We've been doing a lot of that and just continuing to grow and push that program forward. So it's good to see you, Michelle. I'm glad you're here. Let's see. Sandra, maybe this is not on topic for the subject matter, but maybe your response to the audience might help someone listening, including myself. Panic attacks have wreaked havoc, especially during the height of the pandemic. I know alcohol has helped me to calm down in order to deal with the influx of negative news. There's no denying it. It absolutely calms the brain. It's what happens the next day and the next day. This is what I'm struggling with. The fear of the fear. Thoughts. Yes, I do have thoughts. So here's the thing. In the acute moment, I hear what you're saying, Sandra. It does. It will slow down your thinking. It numbs your feelings. But there's a whole bunch of things it also does. You talked about the next day. That's its own set of circumstances. It also inhibits our judgment, right? It also makes it so that what we actually do and how we act might not be ways we want to act. So it's not necessarily that alcohol will is not a way to do that, because it does for a lot of people. It is just a destructive and harmful way to do that. So very specifically around the idea of have panic attacks, I have to recommend talking to your doctor. There are a ton of things that they can do to kind of help you out and tools they can work with you on when it comes to being afraid of the fear that you're going to experience. I'll point out to you that either way, you're not going to feel good, right? So if the pandemic is freaking you out, having a bunch of alcohol is going to lead you to a place where you do not feel good, which, by the way, alcohol is highly correlated with higher rates of depression and anxiety than non-drinkers. So that's choice number one. Choice number two is dealing with the fear. Now, very often for choice number two, we don't feel like we can deal with the fear, right? We don't feel like we can handle what's in front of us, which is what makes us want to go for choice number one more often. But the reality is, choice number one leads to its fear and difficult feelings of its own. So for acute panic attacks, absolutely seek medical attention. Talk to your doctor to see if there's something that they can help you with. But this idea that alcohol is somehow helping you, I think if you broaden that lens a little bit, you realize, no, it's not. Right? It doesn't actually help. Maybe in the moment you do feel a little bit better. I agree with you. That moment is fleeting, and the price for you pay for that moment is really high. So a big thing that we work on in our programs is how to handle those emotions and those things that come up for us. One of the big reasons that people drink is that they don't believe they can handle what they're experiencing, whatever it was. I can tell you, for me, a really, really big one was stress. I did not think I could handle stress without alcohol, and so it was constantly a thing that I would lean on in order to feel better. Here's the catch. This is the difficult part of this. It actually makes things worse. Just like alcohol makes things worse for depression and anxiety, it does the same thing for stress. It wasn't helping me. And over time, the more I drank, the more stress I was just creating in my life as a result of drinking. That was so, that would just build up, layer upon layer until things just felt uncontrollable. So the reality is, this fear of the fear, what you're talking about there, is something that we all experience. If you are familiar with the ACT technique, I would highly encourage you to do some ACT technique work on this idea. I can't handle the panic. I can't handle the fear. Because the truth of the matter is, and I'll cut right to the end, Sandra, you can. It's just a matter of how you frame that for yourself. So again, just to reiterate, for acute panic attacks, please make sure and talk to your doctor about that. There are lots of things out there that they can work with you on, that can help you, that are way less harmful than alcohol. And then second, really understand that, in a difficult time, it's going to be the way you frame things. There's going to be fear one way or the other. And recognize that you have a choice on how you can handle that fear. So I hope that helps. I have so much more I could say on that, but I got to keep moving. But that's a fantastic question, Sandra, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and asking that. Let's see. Susie, how's it going? Good to see you. Yeah, Marsha, they don't call it anxiety for nothing. Exactly. Jackie, hi from the UK Midlands. Hey there, Jackie. How are you? Sheila says, highly recommend the path. Did October 2020, LAE 15 days. November, LAE 3 days. Started 2020 path. December 12 days. January, I have 8 days and no triggers, cravings. Great program. Oh, thank you, Sheila. I appreciate that. All right, so let me get back to my 3 things that you can do. So just as a recap, we covered taking care of yourself, right? And again, I know this is something that you know, but the fact of the matter is, I wouldn't be telling you this if I didn't see it over and over and over and over, that when things get difficult, this is most often one of the first things we throw out of the window, right? So that means getting enough sleep. That means getting enough exercise. And it doesn't have to be crazy. Just going for a walk, moving your body can help. That means drinking enough water. Just do those things that help you feel physically better. Number 2 is pay attention to what goes into your brain. There is so much information out there now. There's so many news channels. There's so much news blogs. There's so much social media, right? Different social media groups and places you could go. Really make sure and watch this stuff from the standpoint of, is this benefiting me or not, right? Pay attention to what you're putting into your brain, because that has real effects on how you feel. And so that leads me to number 3. And number 3 is a big one, and it's, again, something else I don't see people do, and that is talk to people about how you feel. Don't go it alone. Now, I mentioned, we don't allow political discourse in our groups for obvious reasons, I think. And I am not talking about going to Facebook and, making some blast post that's going to start a fight. That's not what I mean. What I mean is have a conversation with those people in your real life about how alcohol or how what's going on makes you feel. Does it make you angry? Does it make you scared? Does it make you sad? Whatever words you have to describe it, have that conversation. Engage with people on that, because this is so true. And again, I see this over and over and over in our programs. What happens is we hold things in, and we have them as thoughts in our mind. And what is a thought? What is the way that we normally think about things? How does that feel? Well, it's like this mixture, right? It's this mixture of words and images and videos, for lack of a better term, and maybe some memories, and there's some emotion in there, and it's all kind of swirling around, and it's not very clear, and that can really build up the anxiety. So one thing that is so powerful to counter that is to speak it or to write about it. Why does that help? One, you feel heard. Two, and I think this is a bigger one, you use the structure, you use the scaffolding of language to order that swirling thought in your head, right? So you can take these different ideas and these different emotions that you're having, you can put them into words, and those words into sentences, and those sentences into paragraphs in a way that really helps you get an idea of, like, oh, here's how I'm feeling, right? Instead of this mass of anxiety and whatever other emotions you're having, you're actually putting order to it, and that can feel so much better. So those are my three things, and I told you they are simple. They are super simple. So again, take care of yourself. Watch what goes into your brain and talk to people about how you feel, right? Don't do it alone. This is 100% something that is going to make you feel better. I'm not saying it's going to cure anything, but it is going to put you much farther down the road to be able to pay attention to the things we want to pay attention to, which might be our drinking. That's why we're here talking today. So I hope all of those three are helpful. Let me see what other questions I have. Susie says, I'm feeling so clear that I'm finished. 3 months. I'm on 30-day whole foods diet, no sugar, carbohydrates, feel good. I haven't felt this good for a long time. Yes, Susie, that's awesome. I'm so happy. So happy. Thank you for your counsel. You bet, Nick. I'm always happy. Always happy to do it. All right. I am going to wrap it up. It was awesome to hang out with you guys for about half an hour today. You guys are amazing. I look forward to Sundays so much. So just a reminder, if you are struggling with the question, am I an alcoholic? Do I fall into that category? And maybe if you ask yourself that question and you think, I do not want to be an alcoholic, maybe that's slowing down your journey. Maybe that's stopping you from reaching out and getting connection with something could really help you. I highly recommend, I promise this is going to change the way you think about the whole thing, that you head on over to alcoholictruth.com. That's alcoholictruth.com. There you can get a free guide. It's 100% free. This isn't like a bait and switch thing. It's 100% free guide that we wrote answering that question, am I an alcoholic? Trust me, it is going to be so helpful for you to get information that talks about the latest way that medical and psychological professionals look at this question. So head on over to alcoholictruth.com and get that today. As always, thank you all for hanging out with me today. This was awesome. I will see you next week. Take care.